audits, the WHO GMP and so on. So it takes almost 6-8 months before we can onboard good clients with good capacities of the business to start with. So how do we currently see this business is from FY26, 25-26 onwards, we should be able to ramp this up. We have ampules vials. We are also introducing new dosage form, which is lyophilized vials in that facility. And we are hopeful that this facility will make a meaningful contribution to our business.
Fair enough. And lastly, on tax rates, this quarter the taxes were a bit higher than what we might have anticipated. How should we look at the full year number?
See, so, there will be the way you look at the taxes is in two ways, right? One would be that if you look at the March 24 number, there was a deferred tax asset which was created, right? This was due to a merger that happened, right? Now, what is happening is that in the period that asset is being utilized, so that is showing in the financials. While the cash payout will be much lower, but when you look at the financials, you'll see a higher charge. If you look at the deferred tax charge, that is the difference. Otherwise, we should be on a payment basis on 19 to 20%, tax for the company.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Next question is from the line of Rohan Vora from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. So thank you for the opportunity. So, sir, recently there were some news articles, referring to extension in timeline for Schedule M. So, just wanted your view on the same. Thank you.
सर ना वो अभी आर्टिकल में गवर्नमेंट ने कंफर्म नहीं किया. गवर्नमेंट ऐसा सोच रही है, ऐसा कुछ लोगों ने रिप्रेजेंटेशन किया है जो एसएमईज हैं और सीसीपी है, लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लगता नहीं कि ऐसा होने वाला है. यदि होगा तो थोड़ा सा इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा क्योंकि वो बिजनेस हमारे पास है नहीं, लेकिन जो हमने फ्यूचर की जो ग्रोथ प्लान की है उसके अंदर माइनर इम्पैक्टेड इज देयर, नॉट मोर देन दैट, क्योंकि वो बिजनेस जब वो रेगुलेटरी कंप्लायंसेस जब वो नहीं कर पाएंगे जो लोग, तो उनका बिजनेस शिफ्टिंग हमारे पास होगा, तो उससे हमें ज्यादा ग्रोथ मिलेगी जो हमने प्रोजेक्ट किया है.
अंडरस्टूड. सो अभी कुछ फॉर्म नहीं है, सो देयर इज नथिंग फॉर्म ऑन इट. इट इज जस्ट अ रिप्रेजेंटेशन.
Yes.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Participants who wish to register for the questions may press star and 1. Next question is from the line of Chintan Shah from JM Financial Family Office. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. So my first question is on the business revenue potential. So if I remember correctly, our capacity utilization was at 40% odd for say FY24, and when we have this new injectables facility plus there were certain facilities which were in for Europe that were also underutilized, and now we announced another 2 facilities. So my question is, what should be the revenue potential when we put all this together, and how much the capacity utilization can increase to, and also if you can help us understand how should we see the ramp up to reach the revenue potential.
Sure. So, as you rightly said, the capacity utilization was roughly at 40%, which was approximately 2% more than 38%, which we did the last quarter one. Right. So, having said that, injectable, we operate at a good capacity. So, let's also further understand when we say 40% max we can achieve, given we have multiple SKUs. We do almost 18,000 SKUs annually, over 4,000 formulations, which involves a significant changeovers as well. The max capacity utilization ranges from 50 to 60 odd % for depending on the line of the product, right? So what we have essentially done, so injectable, which facility we kick-started, we had significantly good visibility, and we are also operating at good utilizations for our injectable facility, right? And hence this project got initiated a few years back, which got today, this month, got commercialized, right? So that is there. As you said, rightly said, Baddi also, we have oral solids and liquids, which again operates at good capacity. Liquids, in a way, can be seasonal when you have cough and cold, then oral liquids can be seasonal, and hence to cater to the spike in demand which can happen, that is also there. Then at times what we have also seen in the past is we get brands get transferred to us from other CDMOs or from in-house manufacturing to us, and hence we keep a buffer of some spare capacity to excel into the service to our customers. As far as Jammu is concerned, what we are essentially doing is as we recently expanded into newer dosage forms, this will some be newer dosage forms and some would be addition of capacities which we feel. So if you today have thought through it, you would appreciate that it would take a few years from when we can commercialize the facility. So for dosage forms which today operate at decent capacities, wherein we feel in the next 2 to 3 years we might face capacity crunches, and hence we thought of putting down a facility into Jammu.
Okay, got it. So the question basically was to, if you put this all together, say 3-4 years out, how should we see the revenue potential?
So if you really look at historic numbers, if we see the historic numbers, we usually do 2.5 to 3 times of our gross block. So that is how we see it. While the margin profile from one dosage form might vary to another, but if we really stick to what has happened historically over the last 2 decades of the operations of the company, this is usually what we do when the capacity fully gets ramped up over the next 3-4 years. And operates at a decent utilization. On the utilization which you said, as I was mentioning, so this is a continual cycle. If you really, and that's a sign of a positive business growth. So for example, if we today stand at 40% for any of our lines, right, and it slowly moves up to 50-odd%, then we start think of adding an additional capacity. So the time it reaches to 55-60-odd%, which I mentioned earlier, is peaking out of our capacity. We add another capacity, it falls back to let's say 25-30%. Then it starts moving up. Right, so it's a cycle of growth of the company, and that's how we plan our capacities.
Okay, got it, understood. So injectables, how much capex have we put in here?
So we have put in 152 crores in the injectable plant.
Okay. And this Jammu can be putting in about 265 crores.
Yes, you're right.
And when is that expected to be commissioned?
So over the next 24 to 36 months.
Next 24 to 36 months. Okay. Got it. Understood. Secondly, my second question was on the balance sheet side. So right now, if I see the cash flows that we are generating and we have a clear balance sheet, and apart from this capex, I believe there is no other capacity addition on the card. So how do we intend to utilize the cash that we have now?
While we are generating free cash flow and we have proceeds from our IPO, there are specific purposes for which these funds have to be used, right? So of the total proceeds, 387 crores goes around repaying our debts, right? The working capital and the long term. Some of it will be for additional working capital. Some of the funds that we'll have, we've set aside for inorganic opportunities where we see some synergies for our business. Largely keeping them as a corporate war chest for the need that arises. So I think that's largely how we are going to use our cash, which will be on our books.
Okay, got it. Understood. And one question was on the CDMO margin. So we are somewhere around 15% odd, and considering the capacity utilization, etc., that we have, just wanted to understand, is this the optimal margins that we should expect will continue to do, or there's a scope for improvement?
So largely that's it. So the business is this is the stable business vertical. I think these are stable margins for us.
Okay, got it. And the margin improvement basically that we should expect is from the other two segments.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. And just one last question, just continuation to what earlier participants asked. So if we need to understand the FY24 revenues, especially on the CDMO part, so is it fair to say that, there was no element of decline in API prices that was involved, or was it a case that the volume growth again in that particular year was much higher? So if you can just spread it up, I think that would be helpful.
Right. So FY24 as well, there was some decline in API prices, right? So we'll also see that so we deal with multiple APIs, right? So as I said, over 4,000 formulations, multiple APIs, right? So some goes up, some don't go down, right? So as a business, what we mentioned in Q1, most of the APIs had a fall in the prices, and hence we specifically call out that the volume was higher than the revenue, while the margins are intact, which gives a confidence that the product mix was good, right? So while there would be in some previous year as well, the volume growth was still intact, but this is what is a specific nature for this quarter.
Okay, got it. So just sorry for asking on this, but one more question. So we have done a 20% revenue growth in the CDMO segment last year. So now, assuming there is some price decline, the volume growth will be much higher. And if I remember correctly, for the industry, the volume growth was entry. So the outperformance was pretty high. So if you can explain what happened between here, and in context to that, then this quarter seems to be a very sharp decline, even if we consider from a volume perspective. So is that on a high base, or what's the reason for that?
So can you paraphrase this again? Sorry, there were multiple points. I could not catch it.
So the point I'm trying to drive is the last year, basically the volume growth was somewhere, if we assume, say, even 5-7% decline in API prices, volume growth was in high 20s, and now this quarter, if we see it somewhere in the range of 13-14% odd. So, I mean, that is what I'm trying to get. And then, I mean, why is there such a sharp change suddenly in one quarter, basically, in terms of volume?
Right. So 20-odd% as a volume growth, I don't think we did it last year. So the volume growth, usually what we do, this is a good quarter where we did volume growth, and similar growth we do over the business cycles, right? So that is it. So volume, as you're mentioning, it's not really declined, but the volume growth has been positive for this quarter.
Oh, okay. Not clear. Probably I'll take this offline. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Ashish Thakkar from JM Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one question from my side. What is the kind of API inventory that we maintain in our CDMO business?
So we sort of have 2 months, inventory in our CDMO business.
Okay. And since we are in the midst of Q2, you still feel that the price pressure from the APIs is still there. That's still relevant, right?
Yes. So it would have an impact in Q2 as well.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. Next question is from the line of Prashant Nair from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So I have 2 questions. The first one is on the API business. Can you elaborate on your plans for this business? It's a new one for you. So, I mean, will this be are you trying to build something similar to what you have on the formulation side, a CDMO kind of business, domestic focus or international? How do you see this business evolving over time?
Let me draw out. There's one major difference. So in CDMO, we work across multiple formulations, right? And hence it gets a domestic focus. Right. APIs are different. We have selective basket of APIs, right? And while the endeavor is to go global, the first step is how can we do right for Indian markets, slowly move to the semi-regulated and finally to more regulated markets. So that is there. The idea, as you initially mentioned, the idea is clear that we have to turn this into a profitable venture soon. The key costs, obviously, since the business is small, there is high COGS currently. Then as we gain scale, this business will have improved efficiencies as well as margins, which over the last 3 years, as you could read the numbers, is consistent. This is nothing particular about this quarter. Over the last multiple quarters and years, we have been continuously improving our margins. Since this is a new business which has extensive R&D orientation, extensive orientation towards seeding the APIs to the formulation players so that they continuously use in their formulation. So it has some gestation period, but we are hopeful this will be a good vertical. And honestly, that's the reason why we separated out from the CDMO business, because we feel it's a meaningful business to be reported independently.
Yeah, thanks. Just my last question from me. So on your international formulations business, again, similarly, can you elaborate on which are the key markets that you're focused on? What would your front-end strategy be in these markets? That would be useful.
So Prashant, we today export to almost 65 odd countries. Right. It has a good fair mix of both chronic as well as acute segments. So the idea is to build out brands which have a prescription and a brand recall. So we have country managers in few of the countries which are of priority countries. As of today, we are there in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa, covering both East and West. Right. We are slowly penetrating into other markets, for example, Middle East, LATAM, then CIS as well. So all of these markets are interesting markets for us. A couple of years back, we also received European approval for 2 of the most important dosage forms. One is the injectable and the oral solids, which is tablet and capsules, right? So we also plan to move to the European markets gradually. We are in a process of filing dossiers. We have already filed 2 dossiers which are there in the public domain. Some are there in the pipeline as well. So the idea is selective markets across continents wherein we can build brand recall and generate good business for the group.
Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for the closing comments.
So thanks a lot for everyone who has joined in. We really appreciate your time. Looking forward to our next interaction soon. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Ambit Capital, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.